I organized the whole wedding, paid for half of it, only to hear my own son shout, "Get out, Mom. My fiancé doesn't want you here," in front of 200 guests. That night, I realized my son was a stranger, and my life was about to be saved. This is how my story begins, not with a quiet reflection, but with the loudest, most public humiliation a mother could ever endure. It's hard to imagine the feeling of having every eye, every judging, pitying, or curious eye, focused entirely on you, seeing you broken. But that feeling, the fire of shame, mixed with the cold shock of betrayal, was the exact moment I stopped being just a grieving widow and started becoming the guardian of my own dignity. The event took place right here on the Taylor Ranch, in the Texas Hill Country, the land Robert and I inherited. The place where Ethan grew up, chasing cattle and learning the meaning of hard work. I had spent 6 months preparing for this day. The ranch garden was full of white hydrangeas and roses. The Western band was playing since sundown, a perfect blend of Texas tradition and refined taste. I was wearing the royal blue silk dress my own mother had worn when I married Robert 40 years ago. It wasn't just a dress, it was a piece of my history, a nod to the legacy Ethan was supposed to inherit and protect. I styled my hair in an elegant bun. I wanted to look good, dignified, the kind of mother a successful son would be proud to present. The tables had linen cloths, every single one of which I had embroidered myself during those long, lonely nights since Robert died. Each stitch was a wish for Ethan's happiness. My contribution was not just financial, it was personal, woven into the very fabric of the celebration. When I arrived at the reception hall, the atmosphere was festive, almost euphoric. But then I saw her, Olivia Vance, that girl with the light eyes and the cold, appraising smile, who had appeared 2 years ago and changed the landscape of our family forever. She was a modern business administrator, from the city, dressed in sleek white, looking utterly out of place against the rustic charm of the ranch. Olivia saw me instantly. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She leaned over and whispered something into Ethan's ear, a movement so subtle and quick it was almost imperceptible to anyone else. Ethan straightened up. He walked toward me with quick steps, his jaw clenched hard. I knew him. It was the same look he used to get when he was 12 and tried to hide a broken fence post, knowing he'd done something wrong but unwilling to admit his mistake. "Mom," he began, lowering his voice until it was a harsh whisper. "We have a problem." I weighted my silk dress, suddenly feeling heavy and suffocating. "Olivia says that your dress is stealing the spotlight, that the blue is too flashy. She needs this day to be about her, only her." I felt the sudden physical lurch in my chest, a real punch of shock and disbelief. Stealing the spotlight, my mother's dress. But I took a deep, steadying breath. Decorum, Victoria. Decorum above all else. "It's fine, son." I managed my voice, surprisingly steady. "I brought another dress in the car. It's a simple beige. I'll change if you want." The look of relief that crossed his face lasted only a second, replaced by something colder, more controlled. "No, Mom." His voice turned stone cold. "It's better if you leave." The word "leave" hung in the air, echoing the sound of glass shattering. I must have misheard. "What?" "Olivia is very nervous," he repeated clearly, reading a script someone else had written for him. "She says your presence makes her tense, that you've always judged her. She needs space." The hall was full, the music played a cheerful tune, and the guests were talking, oblivious to the assassination happening 10 feet from the head table. No one saw the knife enter the heart. "Ethan," I pleaded, struggling to keep my voice low. "I'm your mother. I organized this wedding. I paid for half of all this. This is my home, my family's land. And you want me to leave?" That was when he snapped. The control broke, and he yelled not at me, but through me, aiming his words at the crowd. "And you think that gives you the right to ruin my wife's day?" The music faded. The laughter died. The hall went silent. The oppressive kind of silence you only find in a courtroom before the verdict. All eyes, 200 pairs of eyes, fell on us. The focus was complete, devastating, and absolute. I felt the heat rising in my face, but I kept my posture ramrod straight. Then he delivered the final blow, the sentence I will never forget and never truly forgive. He said it loud and clear in front of the people who had known me since I was a girl. "Get out, Mum. My fiancé doesn't want you here." I felt something break inside me, not my will, but the 15-year-old illusion that I was still his most important priority. I didn't cry. Crying would have been giving them what they wanted, drama. Crying would have been admitting defeat. I looked at my son, not the boy who used to cling to my leg, but the controlled man he had become. I nodded slowly. I didn't utter a single word of protest or farewell. I picked up my clutch, turned my back on the silence, and walked toward the exit. No one stopped me. No one followed me. The guests looked away quickly, embarrassed to have witnessed such a grotesque spectacle of family cruelty. I got in my car and drove the short, dark road back to the main house. The keys were hanging on my neck, heavy and cold as always. Those keys, my father left me before he died, along with the land, the house, the legacy of 4 generations. I got home and took off the royal blue dress. I folded it carefully and put it in the closet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the darkness, remembering Robert's final words to me, a warning I had foolishly dismissed as the rambling of a dying man. My father's voice echoed in the empty room. "Victoria, this land is your inheritance. Don't let anyone take it from you, not even your son." I had thought he meant protecting it from the bank, from the economy. I had never imagined he meant protecting it from the boy I raised. But the next day, when the phone rang and I saw his name on the screen, Ethan, I knew I had to make a decision, not as a wounded mother craving an apology, but as the guardian of 4 generations of legacy. The time for tears was over. The time for action had begun. I hung up without answering. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of the same French roast coffee I used to make Ethan. The phone rang again, and this time I answered. "Mom, please. I need the ranch keys. Olivia and I want to modernize a little." I heard her whisper in the background. My voice turned cold. "What do you need them for, Ethan? Legally, the keys stay with me." The bitterness of the coffee was a match for the morning. I was alone in the old kitchen, the heart of the Taylor Ranch. Just 24 hours earlier, I had been standing in the spotlight of my own family's shame. Now the sound of Ethan's voice over the phone, tired, demanding, and utterly devoid of remorse, was the harsh melody of my new reality. He wasn't calling to apologize for the public disgrace. He was calling for the prize. I took a slow, deliberate sip of the dark roast. I used to make this coffee for Ethan every Saturday morning. He was 12 when Robert died 15 years ago. He was a quiet boy with big hands and sad eyes who tried desperately to be the man of the house. He would wake up before the sun come into this kitchen and drink this coffee too strong for a child, just so he could keep me company while I worked on the accounts. "Mom, I can fix the fence," he would insist, carrying tools heavier than he was. "No, my love, you are still a child." "Not anymore, Mom. I'm the man of the house now." We had been a team. We had learned to survive together on this land. He learned to herd cattle, repair the old tractors, and negotiate with the suppliers when I didn't have the strength. He hugged me when I cried at night, missing his father so much. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Everything is going to be all right, Mom. I promise." And he kept that promise, building his manhood here under these ancient Texas oak trees. I kept my voice calm. "Ethan, your father built this legacy for you. You said you would raise your children here. What happened to that promise?" There was a hollow silence on the other end, long and heavy enough to feel the distance between us. "Mom, things change. Olivia is right. We can't live in the past. This isn't just about sentimentality. It's about being realistic." That word, realistic, he had never used it before Olivia. It was her word, sharp and cold, slicing through the warmth of our shared history. He started laying out their demands, the modernization plan. "Olivia and I want to remodel the main living room, change the old furniture, maybe tear down that ancient wall to open up the space." I closed my eyes, picturing the room. The dark wood furniture, the black and white photographs of Robert's grandparents. The old walls were made of thick adobe, the kind my great-grandfather built with his own hands in the 1,890 seconds. They were solid history itself. "Mom, please don't start," Ethan pleaded, but his tone was impatience, not affection. "Yesterday was enough drama." Drama. I felt the heat return to my cheeks. "You decided to wear that dress knowing that..." "Ethan, that was your grandmother's dress. The same one she wore when she married your grandfather on this very ranch. You now want to remodel." Another silence. He was breathing heavily, trying to maintain his composure against the weight of tradition. "Mom, things change. Traditions change. Olivia is right. We can't live in the past. Olivia is right." Those 3 words were the new mantra of my son's life. "When are you coming home?" I asked, trying one last time to change the subject to find the boy I knew. "That's the point, Mom. Olivia and I are not going to live there anymore. We're going to stay in the city apartment. It's more practical for her job." I felt the air rush out of my lungs, a feeling of vertigo. "But you said you were going to raise your children here, that this was your home." "And it is," he said, the voice of a lawyer, not a son. "But I also need to build my own life with my wife." My wife. He no longer said her name with affection, but like someone signing a contract, emphasizing the legal bond. "So why do you need the keys?" I pressed, knowing the answer was coming, and preparing for the final shock. He hesitated, then plunged the knife in. "Because legally it's my house too, Mom. My father left it to me in the will. 50% for you, 50% for me." The truth was out. The fracture was clear. It wasn't about love or reconciliation, it was about the asset. The value of the land had superseded the value of our bond. My husband Robert had indeed left him half of the property in the will. But Robert knew me. He knew I was the guardian. The keys, the control, the administration, he left that to me, with a specific clause that granted me absolute power over the property's use and future as long as I was alive and capable. "Mom, we just want to make a few changes. Rent the ranch for events, weddings, 15-year-old birthday parties. We could generate extra income, turn our home into a business. It's an opportunity. Olivia has already talked to an architect." "No, Ethan. This house is not for sale. It is not available. It is not a project. It is our home. But it's mine too." The scream was sharp, the voice of a stranger fighting for money, not a home. "Your father left you this land for you to protect it, not to exploit it," I said, my voice heavy with Robert's spirit. "My father is dead, Mom. He's been dead for 15 years. And you keep living as if he were going to come back tomorrow." His words cut through me like knives, but they also gave me clarity. He was right. I had been living for a ghost. Now I had to live for my dignity. I felt a cold rage replacing the pain. "Then I will also build the life I want somewhere else." "Are you kicking us out?" he demanded. "No, I'm giving you what you asked for. Your space, your independence, your own life. And the keys," I touched the heavy metal on my chest, "stay where they have always been. With me, until the right moment to hand them over comes." "And when will that moment be?" "When you have a heart that deserves them." I hung up the phone. I sat in the silent kitchen, the French roast coffee cooling in the cup. My son, my boy, was gone, replaced by a ruthless version of Olivia. The fight was no longer just emotional. It was legal. And I had to prepare. I hung up before he could answer. And when I touched the keys hanging on my neck, cold, heavy, and full of history, I knew I had to search for the only defense my husband had left me. 3 days later, my daughter-in-law invited me to lunch, to fix things between us. But when I found her secretly photographing documents in my late husband's study, I knew what she was looking for: the yellow envelope that held the ranch's only true protection. The invitation came via text from Ethan, clearly composed by Olivia. It was a calculated move, a performance of reconciliation, but I knew better. I accepted because I needed to look into her eyes, to measure the depth of her ambition, and to understand exactly what she planned to do next. My quiet fight was turning into a game of high-stakes chess, and I needed to be the one dictating the moves. I chose my attire: carefully black slacks and a simple cream blouse. Nothing to steal the spotlight this time. I arrived at the upscale bistro in town 5 minutes early. Olivia was already there, impeccably dressed, sipping white wine. She looked relaxed, confident, like a general reviewing the map of her easy victory. "Victoria, how punctual. Please sit down." She greeted me with a professional, non-committal smile. I sat and ordered iced water, maintaining my composure. "Thank you for the invitation. I'm listening." She began with the performance. "I know things started badly between us, and I want to fix that. I'm not your enemy. Ethan is stressed, trapped between us. I want honesty." I waited. Her honesty was always a preface to a demand. "Plot progression. Một bữa trưa đối chất. Lời đề nghị kinh doanh." She leaned forward, her voice softening, creating an illusion of intimacy. "Victoria, we both know the ranch is huge, beautiful, full of potential, but it's also a burden. Maintaining it costs money, time, energy. Ethan tells me, you do everything alone, that you cling to something that is perhaps already too big for you." I took a deep breath, counting to 5. "The ranch is my home, not a burden. It is the legacy of 4 generations. Of course it's your home. But think about it. You alone in that huge house, without Ethan, without anyone. Wouldn't it be easier to let it work for you? We could turn it into a boutique hotel or an event venue. I have contacts in the industry. We could do something incredible, modern, profitable." She outlined the business plan. I would put up the property. They would put up the work and management. Shared profits. "And where would I live?" I asked, watching her closely. "Wherever you want," she said brightly. "You could buy an apartment in New York City, something more comfortable, no stairs, not so much work. At your age, Victoria, you should be enjoying life, not killing yourself in a 19th century house." The phrase "at your age" was the final patronizing blow. It wasn't about the house. It was about deeming me obsolete, useless, and in the way. "How considerate," I replied, masking the sarcasm perfectly. "And the keys? Who would have complete access to manage this boutique hotel?" Her smile faltered for a second, then snapped back. "Well, obviously, we would need complete access to do the renovations, to show the place to potential clients. It's the only way the business can work." "No, Olivia," I said, firmly rising from the table. "The ranch is not for sale. It is not available for business. It is not open to partnerships. It is my home. I left some cash on the table for my water. Give my son my best." I didn't go home right away. Something felt wrong. I called my lawyer, Mr. Miller, and asked him to meet me urgently. He arrived smelling of pipe, tobacco, and concern. I told him about the lunch and the proposal. "Victoria, this is exactly what I feared," he said. "They don't want the profits. They want control. And the most worrying part is that Olivia called me yesterday. She wanted to know if Ethan's 50% was transferable, and if there was any clause that gave you absolute power over the ranch. I never asked her to do that. I felt a chill run down my spine. I know. But she was very specific. She wanted to know about your capacity to make decisions." The word hung in the air. Legal guardianship. The final threat. Then I told him about the missing yellow envelope from Robert's locked study, the one that contained a letter he made me promise I would only open if someone ever tried to take the ranch from me. I searched every drawer, every shelf. It's gone. I pictured Olivia's vintage smile as she photographed the documents. Mr. Miller opened his briefcase slowly. "Your husband was a very wise man, Victoria. When he asked me to certify that letter, he had an expression I will never forget. I never saw the original, but I made a copy just in case." He pulled out a yellowed sheet of paper. It was a copy of Robert's letter dated 3 weeks before he died. I started to read, his voice ringing in my head. Robert wrote about meeting an older man in the hospital who had given his son a power of attorney only to be sold out and put in a nursing home by his daughter-in-law. Robert's words cut through my heart. "Victoria, that story haunted me. I understood I needed to protect you, not from Ethan but from whoever could change Ethan. You are the door and you decide who can enter." Mr. Miller looked at me with tired eyes. "The law protects property, Victoria. It doesn't protect hearts. They can pressure you, manipulate you, make you feel guilty. They can even try to declare that you are not in your right mind to make decisions. I've seen cases like this. The full weight of the truth settled on me. They weren't fighting for a home. They were fighting for an asset, and I was merely the obstacle to be legally removed. Your husband was a wise man, Victoria. He already knew this was going to happen. Now you must prepare for the worst because the law protects property, but it doesn't protect hearts. They will try to crush yours. Mr. Miller said they would try to crush my heart. Have you ever had to choose between protecting your property and saving a relationship? Tell me what you decided in the comments below. Sometimes the most difficult decisions are the ones that teach us the most. They didn't just come to fight, they came to destroy. When my son's lawyer demanded I sell the ranch for $3 million and threatened to accuse me of senile stubbornness, I smiled. They had no idea I had already planned the final counterattack. The 2 weeks following the discovery of Robert's letter were the busiest, but also the most clarifying of my recent life. Robert's words, the story of the old man betrayed and put in a nursing home, had cut through my grief and given me purpose. They had tried to crush my heart as Mr. Miller warned, but the result was steel. I scheduled every possible medical test, from cognitive exams to blood panels. A week later, my doctor certified Mrs. Victoria Taylor is in full possession of her physical and mental faculties. I filed this document in a safety deposit box at the bank. I was no longer an emotional mother. I was a prepared litigant. That Thursday afternoon, I was pruning the rose bushes near the main gate when I heard the engines. Not just one truck, but two and a sleek black sedan. I took off my gloves, wiped the sweat from my forehead, and walked to the porch. Ethan, Olivia, and two men in expensive, ill-fitting suits emerged. Lawyers. I did not invite them in. Ethan, avoiding my eyes, spoke first, his voice tight. "Mom, we need to talk inside. These are attorneys Williams and Smith. They've come to help us resolve the situation." I opened the door, letting them file into the living room. It felt less like a home and more like a hostile takeover. The lawyers sat on the sofa. Olivia, in an aggressively bright dress, took the main armchair. Ethan stood near the window, his back mostly to me, a clear sign he wanted to be anywhere else. I sat across from them, the heavy, cold keys pressing against my chest beneath my blouse. Attorney Williams, wearing frameless glasses that made him look clinically detached, opened his briefcase. "Mrs. Victoria, we are here today because my client, Mr. Ethan Robert Taylor, wishes to exercise his rights as co-owner of this ranch. We have reviewed your late husband's will, and while you have administrative control, Mr. Taylor is requesting the division of assets." Division of assets. My voice was level. "On what grounds?" "Deterioration of value." Attorney Smith, the younger man, interjected with a condescending smile. "The ranch generates no income, has no productive use, and the maintenance costs exceed any potential benefit. Legally, ma'am, this property is both a private home and a commercial asset. My client has the right to protect his asset value." He slid the valuation papers across the coffee table. "This property has a market value of approximately $3 million. I looked at the number then, at my son who still wouldn't meet my gaze. I looked at the empty seat at the dining table, visible through the archway, Robert's seat. That seat was empty, not because Robert was dead, but because my son had chosen to vacate his legacy. Olivia smoothly took the stage. "Victoria, no one is questioning your sentimental attachment, but we must be realistic. This place is huge, old, hard to maintain. You are alone here. What if you get sick? If you fall, you are 57 years old. And then what? Are you going to let this property deteriorate until it's worth nothing?" Her words were meant to sound concerned, but they landed like an accusation of incompetence. "The value of this ranch is more than you can understand. Not everything is measured in money," I countered. "Not even for your son's future," Attorney Smith pressed. "For your future grandchildren," Olivia immediately pressed the emotional trigger. She put a hand on her stomach, her voice dropping to a soft, dangerous register. "Victoria, I'm 3 months pregnant. Ethan is going to be a father. You are going to be a grandmother." The world stopped for a second. The news, the profound, life-changing news, delivered not with joy but as a weapon in a legal battle. It was a cold, calculated punch. Ethan finally turned around, his eyes tired and red. "It's true, Mom. That's why we need to think about providing for our child, about giving him stability. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about my child, your grandson." Attorney Williams brought the conversation back to the legal threat. "Mrs. Victoria, my client is willing to reach an agreement. But if you do not cooperate, we will request the forced division of assets from a judge. And in that process, your refusal to accept help, your age, your isolation, a judge could interpret that as senile stubbornness." There it was, the ultimate threat, the accusation of senile incompetence, the final push to strip away my dignity. I stood up. "Enough. Everyone out of my house." Olivia gasped. Ethan stepped forward, his face red with rage and shame. "Mom," I said out, "give me the keys." "Mom," Ethan demanded, his voice trembling with years of suppressed resentment, not just against me but against his whole history. "Give me the damn keys." I took off the necklace. I held the silver keys in my hand, cold, heavy, full of the history he wanted to erase. Ethan extended his hand, expecting victory, but instead of placing them in his palm, I pressed them against my chest. "These keys are not your future, Ethan. They are your past. And until you understand the difference, you won't have them." His face contorted with something agonizing, rage, pain, and complete defeat. "Then this is over. I don't have a mother." He didn't need to say anything else. The words pierced me like bullets, the price of my dignity paid in full. He turned to the lawyers, his voice cold and flat. "Prepare the papers. We're going to court. I want the division of assets. I want her out of this house." He walked toward the door. He didn't look back. I stood there with the keys in my hand, watching the 3 vehicles drive away. I knew I had lost my son. Now I just had to make sure the land won the war. My son wanted to sell the ranch to buy his future. I decided to change my will so that no one, not him, not me, would ever profit from its destruction. I created a 50-year trust. The silence that followed Ethan's departure was worse than his shouting. It was the absolute crushing quiet of finality. He had used the most devastating words a child could utter. The legal threats had been delivered, and the $3 million valuation had been tossed onto my coffee table like a gauntlet. I spent the next few nights in a numb haze, surrounded by the physical evidence of his betrayal, the court papers, the hostile valuations, and the constant heavy presence of the keys on my chest. The lawsuit for division of assets arrived 2 months later, filled with accusations of deficient administration and patrimonial deterioration. Mr. Miller reviewed them with me in the kitchen. "Victoria," he said, folding the papers neatly, "this is going to be long, maybe years, and expensive. Legally, we can win, but emotionally, we already lost." That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked out to the porch, smelling the dry Texas earth and the damp oak trees. I looked up at the stars, the same silent witnesses that watched my husband and me build our life together. I held the keys, no longer feeling the cold anger, but a profound sense of clarity. Robert's words came back quiet, but powerful. The land defends itself with time, with patience, with the silent justice that only nature knows how to give. I realized I didn't want to win a lawsuit. Winning meant more arguments, more money spent, and more emotional energy poured into fighting my own son. I wanted something permanent, something that would transcend all of us. I didn't just need to protect the ranch from Ethan. I needed to protect Ethan from himself. The next morning, I called Mr. Miller. My voice was firm, completely calm. "I want to make a new will. I want to use the strongest legal shield you have." "Are you sure, Victoria?" "Completely. I want to do what Robert should have done. Protect the land from the next 50 years of human greed." I went to his office, a quiet space filled with the scent of old paper and leather. I dictated my final wishes, ensuring every phrase was legally watertight. I knew exactly what I wanted. I was no longer fighting for my life. I was fighting for the life of the ranch itself. I, Victoria Taylor, widow of Robert, in full use of my mental faculties, declare the following. The Taylor Ranch shall remain under my administration, as long as I live. Upon my death, the complete property shall pass to a family trust that cannot be sold, divided, or modified for 50 years. This clause, the heart of my defense, was the absolute stopper. The ranch could not be liquidated to satisfy Ethan's claim. My son Ethan shall receive 50% of the net profits generated by the property only if it is rented for cultural, educational, or historical events. Never for private commercial purposes. This meant no event venue, no boutique hotel, no Olivia-style project. Climax, the final decisive clause, was the punishment for his greed and the ultimate protection for the ranch. If my son attempts to contest this will or sell his share of the profits, he will lose all his rights, and his percentage will go entirely to a foundation that protects historical American ranches. Mr. Miller leaned back in his chair, slowly removing his reading glasses. Victoria, do you know what this means? You are effectively removing his ownership rights until well after his lifetime. No one will win this war. It means that the land will win, Mr. Miller, that a home will remain a home, that the next generation, my grandson, will have roots. I signed the documents. I had them notarized. I sealed them, and I went home in a peace I hadn't felt in months. The war was no longer fought with yelling or tears. It was fought with strategy and legal force. 2 weeks later, Ethan found out. I don't know how Mr. Miller was discreet, but in a small Texas town, gossip travels faster than a speeding bullet. He called me at midnight. He wasn't the raging lawyer from Chapter 4. He was drunk, crying, his voice thick with confusion and self-pity. How could you do this to me, Mom? How could you take away my inheritance? You left me nothing. I listened, my fingers tracing the outline of the keys beneath my nightgown. I felt a pang of pain, but not regret. I didn't take it from you, Ethan, I said calmly. I protected it from yourself. You were ready to tear apart everything your father and I built for quick cash. I'm a mother who loved you too much to let you destroy what your father built. He screamed, accusing me of being a damn selfish woman clinging to ghosts. Then he hung up and didn't call back. The lawsuit stalled immediately. His city lawyers, faced with the iron wall of the irrevocable trust, knew they had no case. They could not force the sale of a property protected for cultural preservation. They had lost. Months passed. The lawsuit stalled. I continued to live on the ranch, waiting without expecting. The keys hung on my neck. They no longer felt heavy. They were just keys, and I was free. 2 years after he screamed, he had no mother. I opened the door at 6 a.m. He was thin with red eyes, but it was my son. Mom, I'm sorry. He didn't say anything else. There was no need. 2 long years had passed since the lawsuit stalled, 2 years of silence that felt heavier than the weight of the keys on my neck. I lived on the ranch, tending the rose bushes, feeding the chickens, watching the relentless sunsets. I was free from the lawsuit, but chained by the hope that every distant engine sound was Ethan's truck. The keys were no longer a shield. They were a monument to my loneliness. I checked the mailbox every day, not for legal papers, but for a single card, a word. Anything that said my son was still alive, still cared. The mailbox was always empty. One October afternoon, Mr. Miller arrived, not with a briefcase, but with a worried look. He didn't sit down. Victoria, he began, there's something you need to know. Ethan and Olivia separated 3 months ago. The divorce was finalized last week. The world stopped. I felt a confusing rush of pain and vindication. What happened? What always happens with women like that, he sighed. When she couldn't break the trust or get the ranch, she started looking for something easier. She met a hotel magnate, rich, older, no complications. They discovered her with him. Olivia kept full custody of the baby. She moved to Dallas. How is Ethan? I whispered, afraid of the answer. Bad, Victoria. Very bad. He lost his wife, his son, his job. He's been drinking, living in a cheap motel near the city. He's destroyed Victoria. He built that hell with his own hands. Tears streamed down my face, for the man, not the boy I had lost. He had paid the price for choosing ambition over decency. 3 weeks later, the doorbell rang at 6 a.m. I opened the door, and there he stood. Thin, with a messy beard, eyes red from sleepless nights and regret, but it was him. It was my son. "Mom." His voice broke instantly. "I'm sorry." He didn't need to say anything else. I pulled him into a hug, holding him like when he was 12 and fell off his bicycle. He cried for everything he lost, for the time he destroyed, for the man he failed to be. And I held him because that is what mothers do. We bend, we break, but we don't let go. We sat in the kitchen. I made him coffee, that strong French roast, but this time he drank it slowly, thoughtfully, without the demanding edge. "The keys are still yours, Mom," he finally said, his voice raw. "They always were yours." I was a fool. "I know, my love. I know. She convinced me that you were the problem. That you were the bitter old woman clinging to the past. How did you know she was that temporary?" I touched the keys on my neck. "Your father taught me to recognize when someone loves the land, and when they only love what they can get from it. Olivia only loved the potential sale price. I've lost everything, Mom. My son, my marriage, my dignity. Not everything," I said, putting my hand on his. "You still have me, and you still have time to build something true." He stayed on the ranch. We didn't talk about the lawsuit. We just worked side by side, fixing the fences, feeding the animals, watching the sunsets, just like we used to. Slowly, painfully, my son began to return. He started therapy and found a job at a local mechanic shop in town. He was sober. 2 years after his return, the lawsuit officially ended. Mr. Miller helped me modify the will one last time. This final act was not about punishment. It was about the last chance, the ultimate test of character. When I die, the ranch will belong to Ethan completely. But only if he proves for 10 consecutive years that he can take care of it without selling it. If he fails, everything goes to Robert Jr., my grandson, when he turns 25 years old. This secured the legacy for the 5th generation. "Do you think I can do it, Mom?" he asked when we signed the documents. "I don't know, my love, but I want to give you the chance to try." Today, 5 years later, Robert Jr., named after his grandfather, runs through these same yards. He visits every month. When that boy sits with me on the porch to drink hot chocolate, I understand why it was worth resisting. Ethan is learning. Just last month, while we were working together, he looked at me and said, "Mom, now I understand why Dad left you the keys. It wasn't to control me. It was to protect me from myself." I touched the keys. Olivia got her rich businessman, her modern mansion, her perfect social media life. But I have something she will never have: peace. The peace of knowing that I did not sell out, that I did not betray those who came before, or those who will come after. I look out at the ranch now. My grandson is playing near the oak trees my grandfather planted. The keys on my neck are cool, heavy, and real. They are no longer just metal and rust. They are history. They are resistance. They are proof that a woman alone with no weapon but her dignity can defend an entire world. They called me stubborn. They called me selfish. They said I was clinging to the past, but I know the truth. I wasn't clinging to the past. I was fiercely protecting the future. I had to draw a line in the sand, a boundary that said, "My love for you does not mean I will sacrifice my self-respect or my father's legacy." I lost my son, the man he was then to save us both from the destruction of greed. And that, I've learned, is the highest form of love. The greatest lesson life can teach you is this: you cannot buy peace, and you can never inherit dignity. You must fight for it, even if the battle is against the ones you love the most, because in the end, justice always arrives not with revenge, but with truth. If my story helps even one woman open her eyes, set boundaries, and defend what is rightfully hers, then the shouting, the tears, the years of silence, it was all worth it. Have you ever had to choose between blind sacrifice and defending your honor against a loved one's betrayal? What decision changed your life forever? Tell me your story in the comments below, and please share this story. Share it to remind everyone that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to look your own child in the eye and firmly say, "No."